education? The short answer to that question is a claim that we have is no. And the claim goes that our education is not as holistic as it needs to be. Education is supposed to be holistic, and it's beyond what the current school system offers. As we were denied this education, the holistic education, we being raised through the Western school system, it's very hard for us to help our kids gain that holistic education. As in other words, our education by itself, by design, was colonized, and our kids, of course, are also going through the same colonized education. And our effort here is to decolonize the education that our kids are currently pursuing. How do we know that our education is colonized? The next slide, I talk about, hope everybody has gotten their slide moved. Yeah, so how do we know that our system of education is colonized? There is a beautiful litmus test that Subramanya Bharati has given us in a wonderful Tamil poem, where he says, if you do not know the work of Panini and the work of Bhaskara, Panini, of course, is a great grammarian in Sanskrit, and Bhaskara is a great mathematician. And if you're not aware of the work of Shankara, that is his Bhashyams on Vedanta, your education is colonized. And if you are a native Tamil speaker, as this poem is in Tamil, he also indicates a few works in Tamil, like the work of Kamban or the work of Ilango. If you are not aware of these works, then your education is colonized. So if you have not been through learning all this, given that Bharati is one of our rishis of modern times, you could safely assume that your education is colonized. And our effort here is to see how we can liberate, the colonized minds of our next generation. Bharati in this poem goes further to say that he is willing to take you along, or take us along, to 1,000 temples if you wanted to, if you didn't believe in him. And he would go, he says, and swear in front of the Lord in all those temples to help you believe that what he's claiming is true. And he also says his heart goes out for all of us who have been through this kind of education. So moving on, next slide. What does this do? What does this colonized education do to all of us, right? Especially to our kids, right? So it creates a lack of...
Shri Balaji, your audio is kind of not very good now. All of a sudden something happened.
Is it better now?
Yeah, a little better now. Something moved actually, yeah.
So I'll try to be as close as possible to the microphone here. So Bharati, we just learned about what Bharati says about what's colonized education and what's not. And what does this colonized education do to us? It creates a lack of knowledge in mother tongue and in Sanskrit. That eliminates our knowledge in all our literature. Even the minimal knowledge that we require in literature, it eliminates. And especially with lack of knowledge about the Indian value system, we all end up getting disconnected from our families, and that ends up killing whatever little we could learn from that extended family of being connected to a grandparent or an old uncle or aunt. And this, in a sense, leads to a lack of the Indian EQ that some of our parent generation or our grandparent generation used to have. And for those kids who are actually living in countries outside of India, the distance factor also affects them in a big way, where they have a very minimal understanding or almost no understanding of Indian geography, history. History is also not taught the right way in India. And these kids who live in other countries, they're also disconnected with day-to-day news of what's going on in India. Essentially, you know, we are developing into a society of non-Indian people in Indian skin. So moving on. This further leads to a pressure to conform. When you have these kids who are going through the current school systems, especially in countries outside of India, they have a pressure to conform to what the others do within their schools and within their neighborhood. You know, I call it getting mainstreamed, where, you know, kids do not want to take roti or rice for lunch, and they end up losing our symbols. And they're taught stuff like American exceptionalism, where, you know, they start thinking lowly about knowledge and anything that's Indian. And then they're taught a lot of critical thinking in school that makes them start becoming agnostic or atheistic, and end up in a scenario where they lack shraddha, and slowly move away from a shraddha / faith-based system. And the education that's also offered in the current school system lacks what's called rasa, as our education is very focused today on STEM and making money and sports, and the subtle aspects of human emotions that you would get by learning Kalidasa or Bana and so on are not available to the kids of the current generation. Moving on. So this is a very interesting study that has been put out by the World Economic Forum, which is associated with the United Nations. They have identified that there are 16 skills that students need to acquire for them to lead a successful life in today's world. And you can see that among these 16 skills, a lot of those are not taught in today's schools, like what you see on the right side, especially curiosity, initiative, persistence, grit, adaptability, leadership, and social and cultural awareness. These things are either not taught or very minimally taught in our current school systems. So for them to gain good life skills, these teachings would help them make the education more holistic. Moving on. So how do we restore this? So we will have to take an effort, not just one or two of us, but all of us have to get into a road of reforming this system and restoring the pre-Macaulay education system that we used to have. But the pre-Macaulay education system, although a lot of it may have vanished today, it is still in books and in the minds of several learned people in India, as we had an oral tradition and a tradition of actually saving a lot of our scriptures and manuscripts through various means. So we were able to save quite a bit of what was lost because of the abolishment of the Indian school system in the mid-1800s. So let's move on to the next slide. So what are the features of that system that got eliminated? First of all, it's a time-tested system that is around for several thousand years. Even though it got eliminated systematically over the last 800 years, we've been able to save a significant piece of it. It is very much built based on critical thinking, which is what is taught in the current school system. So this system is not opposed to scientific rigor and critical thinking. So it's very much applicable to a modern environment. and also stresses on STEM, which is the buzzword today, or buzz acronym today in today's world, that is focus on science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Our school system definitely had all these 4 components, and it's important for us to kind of understand the Indian version of all these, which is very much available to us even today. And our system is built with rasa, or the emotional component, which is very important to develop in our kids. As you know, you can see that that aspect of it is very much lacking in the next generation. And the interesting thing about all our shastras, whether it is mathematics or grammar, everything is built with aim to achieve a higher goal, and not just aimed at achieving learning shastras. That actually gives the kids or the student a pursuit that is beyond the material education. And you could actually take Bhaskara's Leelavati, or any other work in mathematics or science. You would see this feature built in into every aspect of a shastra. And so it's also built on Indian symbols, art, and culture. So the probability of our kids losing the symbols that we have grown up with, or we used to have in India, is decreased significantly by having our kids go through this system of education. And hence, this is a very integrated and holistic learning system that we as Indians have to revive for building an India that is filled with Bharatiyata. So moving on. So what was taught in the school system that survived for several thousand years? Of course, knowledge of Vedas, the Vedangas, Upangas, and Upavedas. I'm just being conscious of time. I do not want to go deep into all this, as I'm already pretty close to the end of my time schedule here. So we'll learn about a little bit of all this in our system of, in our Agastyagurukulam curriculum as well. So moving on, beyond the formal learning of the 18 Vidyasthanas, we also have had the Chatushashti Kalas, of the 64 arts, that was also learned by students from the pre-Macaulay days. Moving on. And what we are trying to do is to kind of see what aspects of the Chatushashti Kalas and the Ashtadasha Vidyasthanas could be brought to the kids of the current generation, and at the same time make it really relevant to them so that they can succeed in the modern world. What would that help in doing? It help build the confidence in the identity of our kids as Indians, and it'll also help build newer pathways in their minds in problem solving. As you know, problems in mathematics or science, if they're solved in one rigid way, you know, when you learn from Bhaskara or Aryabhatta or Varahamihira, you learn multiple ways of solving the same problem. So these newer pathways can be built into our kids. This would end up helping our kids gain an Indian IQ, and also it helps the society at large to save the Indian system of education, and at the end it helps us save our symbols as well. Moving on. I'll quickly summarize what this specific course is about for kids who are between 5 and 8. It's an entry-level course, and I want to talk about the features of this course. Before we get into the features, we need to understand the basic course tenets, program tenets. You know, we want students who are committed to deep learning. We are not looking at a consolation coursework, right, where your kid would just go to a class for an hour the entire week and then forget about it and get a certificate at the end of the year. So this is not going to be one of those courses. This would be a course where we really want your kid to be involved in a multi-level program, building expertise year over year. And through this, we would like for the kid to gain significant knowledge in Shastram, where they would be able to open up books, whether on the spiritual side or on Itihasa or on science or mathematics, and be able to understand these books from our Shastras and also be able to apply them in the real world. Moving on. So the 4 or 5 streams of learning that the kids would go through would be in Sanskrit, in science, in mathematics and history, and Purva Paksha. We would initially stress a lot on Sanskrit and history, and once we have a good base on Sanskrit and history, in about a year's time, we would start with some mathematics and science, and Purva Paksha, which is the idea of being able to debate on, first understand the philosophies and the concepts of the other, and to be able to debate on topics with the other. Moving on. The course is structured in a way where there would be a couple of classes in a week, and we would have some homework and memorization that the student would do through self-study, and then we would also have camps, maybe one or a minimum of 1 or 2 camps, depending on how many we can do in a year. And then finally, we would like for the kid to apply what they've learned over a number of years in the real world. When I say real world, I mean the modern system. Moving on. So if a kid goes through this, and if our vision gets actualized in the kid, we expect the student to be a custodian of one or many of our Shastric knowledge streams, and we at the least would want to develop the kid into an active supporter of our traditional systems and scholars that come out of our traditional system. And we would like for our kids to participate in new knowledge generation based on Indic knowledge, where they could end up being entrepreneurs based on ideas that they can actually harvest out of what they have learned, and maybe as they grow further, can be developing along with several kids who have this knowledge, an Indic economy that requires this kind of Indic education at its base. We also want the kids to live an Indic Samskrita Jivanam, or a lifestyle that is actually based on Indic knowledge, based on what they've learned through this coursework. So that's my little part. I'd like to introduce you guys to who I call a super mom. We have supermen, but here's super mom Vijaya Vishwanathan. She has raised 2 really decolonized kids who have actually gone through education through our Shastras, and also learned modern education. And her older kid Siddharth is now in Stanford, learning stuff from the modern stuff from Stanford, and teaching Stanford folks a piece of Indian living as well, and Indian knowledge too. So I'd let Vijaya Bhagini take over from here. Vijaya Bhagini. We are not able to hear you, Bhagini.
I think you're muted.
Maybe you can unmute her, Bhagini.
She's herself muted herself, so I can't.
Oh, okay.
Did it work now? Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, guys. So namaste to one and all. Thanks, Balaji. I'd like to quickly, I wish I had Agastyagurukulam when I was raising, when my boys were smaller. They are 19 and 17 now. But something like this would have been fantastic to meet my goals. But anyway, quickly, unlike Balaji, who is sort of a scholar in many fields, I actually, became a full-blown adult with absolute zero knowledge of my roots, where I came from, my languages, my traditions. In fact, I was raised to sort of mock them as superstitious and sort of not pay too much attention. And then when I met my Guru Dayananda Saraswati Swamiji, I sort of got a look into the different things that our traditions had to offer. So once I had that realization, my goal was a very simple, modest one, wherein I just wanted to reverse the cultural clock back 2 generations. And from where I came, that wasn't too much of a task, because we were sort of bankrupt as 2 generations of families. We were bankrupt culturally. So to turn back 2 generations wasn't such a tall order. So next slide. Okay, so Balaji talked about why this is important, and the fact that we need custodians. So why it's important, I'd also like to add that I think future problems of the world need dharmic solutions that come out of the dharmic lens. Already we see that mind sciences and meditation practices are all being used by the West, whether it's yoga, meditation, Ayurveda, even today. Some of these so dharma-based shastras, right, are having applications in the West to solve modern day problems. So there is a strong relevance of this kind of education in the modern world. So it's not just an emotional plea to everybody to say, hey, be custodians of this great tradition. It has actual real world implications, real world values, and it'll actually put your kids ahead. I'm not talking about just a competitive ahead, but also to live a balanced life as they move ahead into adulthood. And then going back to, yes, we do need custodians for this. I guess most of you as parents, and myself included, have not been custodians, have just sort of taken this these knowledge systems, traditions, practices for granted, and really we just sort of do it as a costume on a certain day and then forget about it. But I think we need to have a whole generation of children that are geared to be custodians, that are geared to support it if you're not custodians at this level. So I think each of us needs to turn the cultural clock back slowly, so that in 4 generations we've got experts in these fields, and I think it's possible. So, and we all have to do, each of us has to do it in our own home. This is where the whole idea of Swadharma comes in, where we don't have to advise other people to do it. We can do it at our own homes. Yeah. Next slide, Sangeeta. So what did I do? I didn't have Agastyagurukulam, so I ended up I decided to homeschool my children. I pulled them out of very fancy private schools in kindergarten, and my 3 basic criteria was I sort of knew my children better than the teacher did. She had 18 kids in the private school. I had only 2 of varying abilities, and then I cared about their education, I'm sure, more than she did. So with just this in mind, I pulled them out. And I knew I would seek help where I stumbled. So I joined, so I wanted to, of course, you can't do away with Western education altogether. It's not practical. And there are lovely things you can learn also from the Western system. So I adopted a sort of a classical Western education system based on trivium, which is essentially grammar, logic, and rhetoric phase, where they in the grammar phase they learn a lot of things. They commit things to memory, so it's not a discovery based thing. It's about learning things and committing to memory. In the logic phase, you learn about how things work, the logical aspects, and in the rhetoric phase, you learn to analyze and debate, that sort of thing. And that same thing can also be applied to how we do, because we don't have gurukulams that teach us all these things. The same sort of system can be applied to the Indian education system as well. So you learn a lot of shlokas, the Ashtadhyayi, the Amarakosha, all that by heart in the young age, and then you learn to sort of get into the logic phase where you're learning how things work, and then finally you're able to debate, like Balaji Mahodaya spoke about Purva Paksha and things like that. You learn to use that knowledge and the repository of things that you've committed to memory, and then use it to debate and argue and make your point. So as far as the Indian education system was concerned, the three sort of underlying principles that ran through our homeschool was the importance of contribution versus consumption. This paropakara, there are enough subhashitams and things like that in Sanskrit that talks about paropakara. So this whole idea of consumption and contribution, and I think that's a startling sort of difference in sort of Western lens versus the Indic lens, where everything is about contribution, and then it boils down to responsibilities versus rights. Everybody's talking about rights. What are my rights? What are human rights? What are animal rights, plant rights, whatever, and nobody talks about responsibility. And our systems have always been geared towards responsibility, and then our systems also talked about the collective. It's a more important, this loka samastha sukhino bhavantu tyajete ekam kulasyate. You can forgo one person for the sake of the family, you can forgo the family for the sake of the village, that kind of thing. So the benefit to the collective is given pradhanyam, is given more importance than the individual. And I think these sort of underlying tenets are lost in a very Western sort of education. We don't even think about these things. And so this became like the primary, anything we did or anything we talked about, these three things ran through. Sangeeta, the next. So specifically, what does that entail? So like I said, from where I was, I did not know any language properly as a full-blown adult. So I made sure that Sanskrit and Tamil were taught to my kids. Then Kala, Krushi, so they both are classically trained musicians. They are into instrument making. They're also into, when I say gardening, it's sort of a lame term. Krushi as in, what are the different things that grow? How do you grow it, whether it's forests, whether it's, woods, just the whole idea of vanaspati, the whole idea of plants and ecosystems and things like that. And the entire thing is based on Panchamaha Yajna, as far as what we did at home, and the 5 yajnas of so they would do they would learn to chant Gita or the Veda as a Brahma Yajna. So you make sure you're doing that, and then the Pitru Yajna, of course, unless you are an adhikari to do ancestor karmas, you don't have to do it. The Bhuta Yajna, in fact, there's a little video in Sanskrit that we did when they were really small. They were asking for pets, wanting a pet because the neighbor has a pet, and every neighbor has a pet on the street, and they wanted a dog. And so we went through this whole thing, and we put together the Vedic vision, of what it is to really love animals, that you don't really need to own a pet. but instead you can feed the crow, and what are the plants, and sort of do it every day. A tulsi puja, things like that. So the Vedic vision of Bhuta Yajna is also sort of, it's just so multifaceted. It's just not, oh, I love animals and I'm going to a pet shelter and getting a dog. I mean, nothing wrong with that, but I'm just saying that the vision is just far more rich and far more liberating, if you will, where you don't have to own anything, but still you feed all these things because you're connected to the universe through them. So Bhuta Yajna was a big part of what we did. Brahma Yajna, every day they would learn Gita or Veda or something like that. Manushya Yajna, of course, we all try to teach our kids to serve fellow human beings. And then Deva Yajna, we would do a Nitya Puja every day. It can be a Shodasha Upachara Puja if you have the time, or just a Pancha Upachara Puja, a brief puja too. So that teaches children, invocation of the Lord, and then sending the Lord back, Yathasthanam, when you send him back. So and then the other things would be exposure to sciences, Indian sciences, and there's just so much. The Indian sciences are just a treasure trove. If you just take gastronomy and to teach children what grows. So, and the other nice thing is, these things are all connected. So if you look at, say you do an Ekadashi, you fast, so you learn to fast, and then and now of course that's the big rage, right? Now on Dwadashi there is a specific a sort of meal that one prepares with amla, and there's a special kind of spinach that you get, and then you use only moong dal because that digests very easily, and these things sort of cleanse your digestive system, and so you follow Ekadashi Dwadashi. Now this basically then you have to know when is Ekadashi and when is Dwadashi, and so you need to get into the Indian calendar of what are the tithis, what is the nakshatra, what are the seasons. There are 4 seasons. In the Western system we have 6 seasons, and what grows in what season, and what are the festivals in what season, and what do you cook because of these seasons. So it's all sort of interconnected, right? So you will learn to look at the sky, you will learn to look at the seasons, you learn to integrate that into your cooking. It's just sort of when you say holistic, Balaji Mahodaya talked about holistic. I mean, all that makes it really holistic. Yeah. So you actually follow the the life of living together with nature and appreciating everything with rasa, like he said. So when you cook these different things, and when you you look outside and the different flowers of different seasons, so it all sort of comes together. And then for more sort of serious subjects, Natya Shastra, since the boys are musicians as well, there are things in Natya Shastra. Vyakarana in Sanskrit is it's just an ocean, right? Where do you begin? So at one point, my older one had a Vyakarana teacher locally, somebody from Srirangam teaching him Alankara Shastra, Kavya and Alankara, and then someone again from somewhere else in Karnataka teaching Nyaya Shastra. So you have and today with the internet, I think that those sort of things are made easier. Because we can access all these people, and with something like Agastya, I hope we get into. Balaji talked about we want people that are serious. So it's not just sort of an emotional plea to tell kids, hey, these are some nice cool things, but these are actually deep sciences which will which will make your kids think differently. So next slide. So essentially, what did the kids get out of it? So the usual view of caste, curry, cow, this sort of apologetic Vaidika that people end up being. I can clearly tell you that we once the Indian sciences. For example, there is, if you look at Western meters, I think Siddharth talked about it. They learn iambic and all these sort of meters in the West, and in English poetry, and you learn chandas in Sanskrit. You really don't have to tell your kids that which is sort of I should use the word superior, but essentially it is which is sort of superior in structure, in how it's laid out, all of that. It's sort of, it's self-revealing, so the appreciation of Indian heritage and sciences you will get based on its true merits, instead of any sort of emotional reason to say, oh, because it's ours, it has to be superior. So that's a big thing, because once you understand, the hard part is the initial part of getting language and getting, even in music, to learn sari gama and to get to a certain level is hard. But once you've crossed that level, then the nice, the Vishayananda, the beauty of that Shastra, the ideas that it unfolds is a true bliss. It gives you an ananda of a different sort. So there is this initial stumbling block where everything doesn't come easy. But once you've crossed that building blocks, once you've got the building blocks on each of those Shastras, then the beautiful ideas, like for example, even in math, to learn the tables and do all the addition, subtraction, and basic algebra is hard. But once you've got that down, then the beautiful ideas of mathematics sort of come to play. So the boys are able to resist pop culture, I would say. They are, they can assess facts without worrying about feelings or political correctness, because it is, in fact, a pursuit of truth. Life is about a pursuit of satyam in some ways, and even in vyavahara, it's about pursuit of truth. So you don't have to just sort of succumb to groupthink all the time. As far as how have I turned the cultural clock back, I think, for example, even in a small thing, my boys can, I have a hard time being clothed in a sari, for example, 24/7, 365. But my boys would not have a problem wearing a dhoti and angavastram and walking around. They're totally comfortable, with that. They know more about the different Vedika practices, all of that much more than I did when I was at their age. I think the whole idea of sporting a bindi and not, you don't have to wear a bindi only for for an Indian outfit, So these sorts of things become part of who you are, and I think you can wear your culture on your sleeve without being apologetic. So I think that's very, very important, and because there should be alignment between what you think, what you say, and how you are outside. I'm still working on that alignment, but I think that's also very important when you're because there's nothing really to be afraid of, or shy about. So I think this when you realize the minds of the kind of minds that the rishis had, the knowledge that they have sort of so compassionately shared with us, and then you realize these are sort of petty things, so that's my little talk. And I also wanted to, last but not least, tell you that the group of people here, Balaji, Sangeeta, Mittal, Priyamvada, Bhagini, all of them are, we are actually doing this not with any profit in mind. We want to share with other kids. We want custodians we feel really, really deeply about our knowledge systems, the wealth of knowledge that our rishis have left for us, and we want custodians. That's all we're looking for. We're not looking for money. In fact, we put a lot of money and our resources, our time into this. So it's not a money-making venture. By far, it's not. In fact, it shouldn't be the word between. but it does. And but we want custodians. We want true custodians. We want to hand it over to the next generation. We're looking for custodians. That's what we're looking for. So I wanted to sort of make that clear if it wasn't clear already. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Sri Balaji and Vijaya Bhagni. I'm just going to talk about the Jignasa class. There's some information on that. These classes are online. We will be teaching Sanskrit and history. These will be parented classes. Your parents can only watch the classes, no participants from the parents. We will have 15 students in each batch. Each class is 45 minutes. 2 classes per week for each batch. We'll have catch-up classes, 1 class per week. Uh, we expect you to do 30 minutes of daily practice. This is for ages 5 to 8. What all activities will be included in the class would, read and write and minimal conversation in Sanskrit. We'll be teaching you some basic slokas and memorization of Amar Kosha, history. There will be some quizzes, some artwork, and some homework. What's the requirement for these classes? It's going to be online, so you need to have some sort of a PC or a laptop with a mic and a camera. It's going to be a parented class, so another adult has to be present. We expect the kid to be attentive, on time, participate, finish their homework on time, and follow directions. We want to make sure parents don't participate in these classes. If they have anything to contribute, we would expect them to let us know after the classes is over, not during the class. The first batch is starting the week of November 18th. We'll have classes twice a week, Monday and Thursday at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time. Suggested fee right now is $30 a month, or you can pay upfront $250 a year. We're also providing financial support in exchange of some seva. More batches are going to follow pretty soon, as we plan to schedule these classes that are time convenient for students based in different time zones in USA, Europe, Australia, Asia Pacific. I have a poll right now, which I'm going to just launch because I want to get an idea of whoever is attending, what time zone you are in, and also which country you are in. So please take this poll at this moment. You have 20 seconds more to take the poll, so please. I have 10 more seconds to take the poll. I'll be closing it shortly. Okay, this poll is closed. I'm going to launch another one, just finding out which country you are from attending this webinar. So please take that poll as well. Thank you. All right, thank you so much for taking this poll. So how to register for these classes? You can email us at registration@agastyagurukulam.org. We will be sending you enrollment forms and fee payment instructions along with that. Our website registrations for this program will be coming soon. At this point, we will take any questions that you have. So let's just go over the questions that we have right now from the attendees. Somebody asked, can you please share the deck after the webinar? This webinar is getting recorded, so we will be uploading it onto our YouTube channel and it will be available to you. We will send out an email after the webinar with the YouTube link. I will also be sending out the detailed information on how you can register for the program in that email. The next question I have is, can adults join this course? Only as a silent participant. Like I mentioned, it's a parented course, and we need to have one adult sitting with the kid at that time because they have a very less attention span, and you want to make sure that they are attentive and listening and participating. So that is the role of the adult who's sitting with the child. This course is not for the adult, but they can learn as well. There's no harm. Next question we have is, who are facility and teachers who will be teaching? Srivara, can I ask you to take this question?
Sure. So we have a regular set of teachers who are at least at a level where they have completed masters in Sanskrit or some Shastra area. And then we will also bring in experts for kids who want to like pursue certain special area, just so that you guys know what kind of teachers we're talking about. You know, we did a camp over summer, and we brought some really good experts like Professor Ramasubramaniam from IIT Bombay, and then we also had Dr. Sampadananda Mishra from SAFIC, who's a visiting faculty at IIT Madras as well, and Dr. Sharanya Reddy, a scientist from the US who moved to India, who pursues Indian mathematics and Indian science. So we've got a very good lineup of teachers who we have access to. These teachers are our guides as well, who have learned a lot deeper than some of us here. So you have access to such good teachers, but the teachers who are resident teachers within Agastya would be at a level where they have gained a good amount of education or shastras and who have ability to teach them well.
Okay, the next question I have is, if there are multiple kids, what is the fee structure and how many months of the year the course will go on? This course will go on for almost 10 months with in between Christmas and the spring break and long weekends break. If you have multiple kids, they can, I mean, we don't want them to sit together because then there will be more distraction in my mind. It would be good if they sit separately and attend the session. So the fee would be for per kid basis, though we can offer some kind of a discount for a family, definitely. Next question is, if we change our geographical location after registration, that's okay. We can put you in some other batch based on your time zone. That's not an issue at all. The medium of instruction right now would be English because we know that most kids understand that language. But as you know, as they go through this program and go through different levels, the medium might change to Sanskrit for certain things. Next question I have is, class timing is 6:30 p.m. PST, which is 7 a.m. IST. Yeah, we're going to start multiple batches with different time zone. This is just first batch that we are starting, which is 6:30 p.m. Pacific time zone. We'll have other time zone batches as well. Okay. I think that's all the questions I have right now, but I will just wait just in case someone is typing something and have something else, wants to know something else.
I also will chime in here, something that I forgot to mention, that you know, I talked about relevance of it in modern times and in modern education, and even in college. Colleges are looking at these sorts of different things with keen interest as well. In fact, my older one did a talk at UPenn maybe 3 years ago on he did an internship with Professor Ramasubramaniam over the summer on Chanda Shastra, Pingala Acharya's Chanda Shastra, and then essentially went into with music. So he did a presentation on how Chanda Shastra, combinatorics, number theory, and music. It's actually on YouTube. I'd be happy to share it. So these sorts of opportunities, you can get. But we right now are building, giving you the building blocks for these sorts of things. So that's what I wanted to share with you.
Thank you, Vijayaji. We have a few more questions, so I'm going to go one by one. How about the fee structure for Indian students? Like I said, right now we have just one fee structure, but we are offering financial support, or in exchange of seva or some volunteer work. So reach out to us, and we can definitely help you out there. What will be the fees in rupees? That's another question. Right now, 30 US dollar comes out to be about, I think, 1,800 rupees per month. If you pay upfront, it's 250. Okay. So something on around 1,800 per month is the fees right now. What happens after 10 months course? Is this in a year-to-year structured course? Yeah, so after you finish one level, we'll put your kid into a level 2. They will learn other things, advanced other stuff, as they go along with us. You mentioned writing as part of the course. Will that be the Devanagari script? Yeah, that would be the Devanagari script. They would be learning Sanskrit, learning to read, write in it, and even converse in it as well. I missed one question. I'm sorry. A Hindi medium student can join. Uh, I think we have to think about it. Like if the person doesn't understand English at all, I have a feeling that they might be able to learn the language if they know Hindi. Uh, Shivarya, you have any thoughts on that?
I think you can look at it as a child can also learn English that way.
Right, right. Yeah.
So, can give it a shot. I don't know what Balaji wants to say.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I think we may have to work with the child for a couple of weeks and then make an assessment on that. So we would love to try, but I do not know what the output might end up being. So we may have to try it out for some time.
Will the curriculum be available at the beginning of the course? Yeah, we are working on a curriculum and a schedule, so we will post it out to the group of registrants, that information. If the child misses a class, will the recorded be shared? Like I mentioned, we will have flexible classes. So if he misses out a class in a week or something, there would be catch-up classes. Plus, we'll be covering some topic from the previous week, recapping what they've learned a week before. So they would be they would not miss out so much, and we might have some additional flex classes depending upon how much they're missing out and how much we think they need more flex classes. So we will make sure that they are up to speed to the next class. What will be the timing of the classes? I mentioned that right now we are starting a batch in the week of November 18th, which is 6:30 p.m. Pacific time. But we are also launching several other batches at different time zones. I don't have that information right now to share with you. But if you register with us on our website, you sign up, we will definitely keep in touch with you, and we will notify you with our upcoming batches in different time zones. Would love to get details of the teacher, short bio sketch. Yeah, we will, once we have a schedule ready, we will share that information with you as well. Will the batch based on age groups? Yeah, the age group is 5 to 8, so there will be a mix of all these age groups in that. There might be a 5-year-old or a 7-year-old or 8-year-old. They will all be together in one batch. Yeah, the 5-year-old and the 8 will be in the same batch. Yes, I mean we might evaluate some student if they know a little bit of Sanskrit. We might put them in a different level, but as of now, everyone is going to be in the same batch. The class is going to be one-on-one. The classes are actually online, you will be attending via Skype or a Zoom session. That's why we require you to have a mic and a camera, so they can see you and you can see them, and they can hear you and you can hear them. Uh, my kid is in English medium school, but still they all do communication in Tamil. Will parents able to work along with them in translating your instruction to them? Yeah, definitely. That's another advantage of having the parents sitting with the child, that they can help them with their learning as well. So yeah, absolutely. Please send registration details to all webinar attendees. Yes, like I mentioned at the end of this webinar, we will be sending you the link for the recording. At the same time, I'll also be sending you details on how you can register for this program and what is the fee structure and how you can pay for the fees. What's the student teacher going to be? I'm sorry, I just can't follow that question.
What the question is, what is the student teacher ratio going to be? I think the max
Okay.
ratio we'll have is 1:15, right? We cannot go beyond that.
Yeah. So it's going to be a 15 kids in one batch. So it will be 1:15. Do I need to register again on your website? I think you probably have just created an account on our website. You have not registered for this program. So if you want to register for this program, you would have to send us an email right now at the email address that I mentioned. All that information, we will send it out to you in an email after this webinar, so you can register with all the admission form and everything. What's the teacher ratio? Yeah, I think we just answered that. It's 1:15. Is the registration still open to be shared with other friends? Yes, absolutely. Please spread the word. We have few batches that are launching pretty soon. So yeah, please share it with your friends. Yeah. I hope I didn't miss out of any question. Let me just go back and make sure. I think I've covered everything.
Sangeeta, you might also want to share the video of the camp that we had in Pondicherry.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So
They'll get an idea where this whole thing will sort of culminate.
Sure. Yeah. So definitely, I will share that information as well. I think we have some of the information on our website, but I'll send out the links as well.
Yeah, and I'll also send the link out to that. So that's talk at UPenn, so they also know how these.
Right. Somebody is just asking me, can you please show a short video now? I think it would be hard for me to find a video to show right now. So
I can, Ravi, it's really, the last one has come out well.
Do you have something quick that you can show? Okay.
I need wait a second. Full screen. Yeah. So can you make me? I think I'm already a presenter, right? I can.
Yeah, you are a presenter. Yeah.
Presenter. They will see my screen?
Yeah, I'm okay. Yes.
The audio coming through as well?
Yep, it's coming through.
Yeah.
I think the audio is kind of not very well. Okay, it's coming now. It's coming.
Identity and self-confidence. So these two things go together, right? Kids of Indian origin in the US have the serious issue of they getting mainstreamed. In the process, they lose the Indian identity, which will help them stay different, but at the same time remain Indian American. However, the kids do not have a good grasp of their mother tongue. do not have a good understanding of India and the values that they can bring to the American society through Indian values.
Even talking in their own mother tongue is a big pushback. Like, even though they understand, they read or write or do anything, a number of things. But as soon as they see another kid who speaks the same language, immediately they switch to English and they forget to talk in their own native language.
They get entitled saying that I can't do this because I need somebody else to help me out. Such simplicity is not there. That is the biggest thing that I feel that as a parent, I cannot even teach them unless they experience that. You're not completely dependent on your iPads and televisions and things like that.
Probably they should start this sort of a course for parents as well. In order to know the beauty of it, you need to experience it. That's what I feel.
What we have done through Agastya here, and especially in the Unmesha camp along with traffic, is to help them get an orientation to what their identity really is.
They don't teach these types of things in school. Like when they do like the history about India, they say like they just say some myths and stuff that's not even true. It's like, hey, India is divided in north and south. There's a big difference between north and south, but they're actually one. And this rich Indian, like the Hindu culture, is just so diverse and great. Like, I barely have any words.
Indian way of solving problems in their back pocket, that could always be helpful so that they can play a role in the society that they are in, wherever they are, whether they're in India or in the US, and solving problems differently if that can help them reach the goal quicker.
I was talking about like cancer research with Ayurveda. How can you stop like using either like dance movements to stop like depression, and using using Ayurveda to stop the cancer, like to stop it from going farther. Or we learned about Indic knowledge. We learned about like our Shastras. We learned about Vedams. We learned about like all of the Upanishads and everything. Our culture, because it's dying really like immensely, and like it's gonna go away in like a couple of years if we don't teach our like future generations.
We believe that they can get smarter because they're learning stuff in the original. When we think about like origin of trigonometry or origin of geometry, these are original texts from which they're going to learn these subjects.
I want to be a professional football player, and I want to go to like Europe or Spain or one of those great clubs. And there you earn a lot of money, like millions and millions of euros or all that stuff. Okay, and with that money, I can fund these like classes like Unmesh program, or maybe even like make them myself, because it's really important for kids to learn about their culture, so when they grow up they can pass their knowledge on. So I feel that that's a very rich part of being Indian.
The idea of India losing to foreign invaders over a period of time, and we learn about these invasions a lot more, and they get highlighted in our history because our history has been given by the British, and it's been built in a certain way for a reason. And here in this camp, we are actually helping them understand the history of victories in India that has actually enabled India to have a continuous civilization for thousands of years.
Honestly, I think I'm so confident I could literally wear a dhoti and walk on the street in America.
Oh, wow.
I think we may have lost a lot of people who are, we
No, I
have
think
that.
no, I think we still have some people there. Yeah, that's yeah. Uh,
Great.
is
So
yeah.
I think we are
There's one more
pushed
question.
past the time. So we apologize for taking a little bit more time of yours. So
Yeah. Uh,
somebody wanted the video. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So there's a question: is there a fee for the class that shall commence in mid-November? Yes, it would be prorated as we'll be starting in the middle of the month. But yes, there will be a fee for that class as well. Uh, I think that's all the questions that we had. I thank you everyone for your time, and we'll look forward to speaking to sometime soon. And feel free to contact us anytime and follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you all.
Dhanyawad. Thank you.
Yeah.